Hello, this is Mad Cat, the angry egalitarian that discusses this and that. Today, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming and the role of Mary Jane Watson. Now, recent news about the movie suggested that Mary Jane Watson could be played by someone who was not white. And this has caused a little bit of an uproar because the character has traditionally been a white actress, and that in the comic books she was portrayed as being white. Now, is this really a big issue? Now, just because Mary Jane Watson was portrayed as being white in the comic books, does that mean that she always has to be portrayed as being white when it comes to the movies? Problem with this is when we consider actors such as Samuel L. Jackson. He is playing a character that has been white for the most part in the comic book history. Nick Fury has always been white. And the few times that they've had Nick Fury on, TV or the big screen, he's been portrayed by a white man. The fact that Samuel L. Jackson is now playing this role, which I thought was a good idea. When I first heard about it, I'm like, oh, that's so awesome that they have him. Then you also have Michael Clarke Duncan, who was cast as the Kingpin in Daredevil. Now, the Kingpin has always been a white character. He's a big white man. Even the newest series on Netflix has Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. And even Vincent D'Onofrio, I was like, him as Kingpin? I don't know. I don't know if that's really going to be a good role. But he did it. He did an amazing Kingpin. But that doesn't take away with what Michael Clarke Duncan did, who was also an amazing Kingpin. I believe that he could have been the Kingpin in this universe, and I thought he was a very good casting choice. Looking at the movie Spider-Man Homecoming, the actress in question is Zendaya. Rumor leaked that she could be Mary Jane Watson. Now, Zendaya is not white. Actually, to be specific, she's half white or half black. Her father was black and her mother was white. So, she's not full black, she's not full white, she's somewhere in between. Now, if we take a look at some of the other actresses to have portrayed Mary Jane Watson, I think her name is Shailene Woodley, and she played in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 film, red-haired girl. We take a look at Kirsten Dunst, also red-haired girl. And to me, she is Mary Jane Watson. She did the role very well. Maybe there could have been someone else who could have done it better, but I really felt like she is Mary Jane Watson. As part of the problem with these kinds of movies is we've had a number of other people portray these parts, and any new person that comes along, we're going to compare them to someone. And I'm going to compare Zendaya to Kirsten Dunst. Why? Because Kirsten Dunst did it. She was Mary Jane Watson. But can I accept an actress of a different race to play Mary Jane Watson? To be absolutely honest, yes and no. The issue for me with Mary Jane Watson is not one of race. It really isn't. The issue for me is the red hair. Mary Jane Watson is known for having red hair. These two actresses portraying Mary Jane Watson both had red hair. Now, I'm quite certain that it was a dye job, but the fact that I'm seeing a red-haired girl says, hey, this is Mary Jane Watson. Now, Zendaya also doesn't naturally have red hair. She has brown hair. Here, I think, was DeviantArt. I think that's where I found this on I guess they went in and colored her hair. And I don't know. I think she could pull it off. What's important to me is that Mary Jane Watson is a red-haired girl. So if they got a black actress with red hair, I could accept that. Now, while red hair is actually possible in many cultures, many people associate red hair with being Irish. And it's simply not true that someone who was born darker skin in Spain could be born with red hair. I mean, a Hispanic individual could have red hair, an Irish person, a German, a Russian. Now, if they portray the actress as being black in the films, that might cause a little bit of controversy. It's like, oh, well, they're just trying to make her as white as possible for, being this character. And it's like, well, okay, but the character's supposed to have red hair. But if they portray her as being half black, half white, then I think it's feasible that this Mary Jane Watson could have been born as being with red hair. I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel if in the story universe she's not naturally a redhead, but a girl who just dyes her hair red. I don't know. I don't know how I would feel about that. But I guess my ultimate point with Zendaya being Mary Jane Watson is whether or not she's going to have red hair. Beyond that, the second question for me is, can she act? Now, she was apparently on the Disney Channel. Many actors today have come from the Disney Channel, such as Shia LaBeouf. And I think he's a great actor. He's not really given the best roles sometimes, but I actually like him as an actor. He's kind of crazy as a person, but, So, having a foundation from the Disney Channel certainly bodes well for her. But I haven't really seen her because I don't watch the Disney Channel. I would actually support Zendaya if she is going to play Mary Jane Watson. And if she really, really adds to the role, if she's such a great actress that she can be Mary Jane Watson, I might overlook the issue of the hair. However, I will still compare her to Kirsten Dunst, because Kirsten Dunst did it for me. She was Mary Jane Watson. And not just because she had the hair, because the other actress has the hair. And when I look at the both of them, Kirsten Dunst looks like Mary Jane Watson. She's also a fantastic actress. And her ability to act as Mary Jane Watson, it just really did it for me. I would be happier, though, if Zendaya is going to be portrayed as a red-haired woman. And that's... call me crazy, but when I think of Mary Jane Watson, I think of a red-haired girl. So if she's going to be of a different race, I would be happier if she still was a redhead. Now, the only thing with this, though, if we go back to Wikipedia here, is that when we look for Spider-Man Homecoming, Zendaya has been confirmed to play Michelle. This could be like a code name, and later are going to say, yeah, she is Mary Jane Watson, or there is not going to be a Mary Jane Watson in the film. It could be that she represents Mary Jane Watson, but they decided to name her Michelle to differentiate the fact that she is not a white, red-haired girl. But thematically, she could be the equivalent in this film to Mary Jane Watson, which I think would be fine. Again, I wouldn't be bothered if Zendaya is Mary Jane Watson, like she's actually named Mary Jane, and didn't have red hair. But she would have to be really, really good. Now, another one that I find very interesting is actually Flash Thompson. Now, Flash Thompson was always a muscle-bound, jock-type character, and he was always white as well. The person playing Flash Thompson, well, is not white. The reason I refer to this character, though, is that originally his character was referred to as Manuel rather than Flash Thompson. Now, what I say about Michelle up above for Zendaya is that maybe they're just waiting to unveil or tested the waters out and like, hey, she could be Mary Jane Watson. How's everyone feel about this? Oh, number of people are complaining because it's racist? Okay, we won't do it. But also for the fact that, people are saying, oh, it's racist to have Mary Jane Watson being played by a black woman. Well, you've got Flash Thompson being played by a non-white person. If you have a problem with one, you have a problem with the other. And surprised that this hasn't actually reached out and people get angry about this. Hey, if Tony Revolori, sorry, I cannot pronounce that name. I'm very bad at pronouncing names. But, if he can be a muscle-bound jock or just be a really good rival for him, I guess I could accept him as well. But he has to really act. And that's the most important thing is you can have a bad actor for these roles and completely fail. What matters in the end is if these people can act and fill these roles. Now, seeing that Zendaya is going to be playing the role of Michelle, I guess I'm a bit disappointed that we're not going to see a new twist on Mary Jane. I was just like, because I was a little bit bothered at first, but not because she was white, but because it's like, oh, maybe she won't be a redhead. I do have a thing for redheads. Most men have a thing for redheads. But, as long as she was a redhead, I would have been okay with it. And I feared the possibility that she might not be a redhead girl. That was it. Her race really didn't matter so much as what her hair color was. The problem that I fear is if she was Mary Jane Watson and did have the red hair, we would get a racist reaction, but in the opposite direction. It would be the black community, or specifically Black Lives Matter, that would have the problem with her portraying a black girl with red hair. And they would cite that she's basically just a white character that happens to be black. They're trying to strip away her blackness. And that's what I think would actually happen. The people right now that are kind of saying, hey, Mary Jane Watson shouldn't be black, I think they'd get over it. Especially if they're white nerds. I think they would get over it. Again, Samuel L. Jackson, Michael Clark Duncan, both actors portraying a white character, and they brought it. They're both really great actors. So I think over time people would just accept that Zendaya is the new Mary Jane Watson. They probably could accept it easier if she had red hair, but maybe they could get over it if she doesn't. But I think that the black community, the black racist community, and yes, Black Lives Matter, I am referring to you, would have the biggest problem with it if she had red hair. Zendaya, it was a bit of a shock that they wanted to go that direction for Mary Jane Watson. But upon reflection, I really want her to be a red-haired girl. She's a very beautiful woman, and it's plausible that she could have red hair, that she was born with red hair. Maybe even dyed. I would have a slight problem with it if it was just a dye job and they acknowledge that. But at least they're trying to find a middle ground. It's like, hey, we want to cast this woman, but we'll meet you halfway, nerds, and give her, say that she dyed her hair red and is going to keep it like that. Maybe as a transition so we can get used to her as an actress for this role. Ultimately, though, if she is a really great actress, her race doesn't bother me at all. Because we have plenty of examples of other characters in comic book movies being portrayed by someone of a different race. I'm not the least bothered by race. The only thing with Mary Jane Watson is the red hair. Give me the red hair. I don't care who you cast in that role, so long as they do the role good. It doesn't have to be the way Kirsten Dunst did it, but in their own way convinced me that they were that character. Much how Michael Clark Duncan and Vincent D'Onofrio both convinced me they were the Kingpin, even though their acting styles and overall personalities were contrastly different. I believe that both of them could have been the Kingpin. So, I hope she actually becomes Mary Jane Watson. I do. But what it looks like to me is that she's playing the character equivalent to Mary Jane Watson in these new films. And that's a little bit of a disappointment now that I've gotten used to the idea that she could be Mary Jane Watson herself. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Be sure to check out my description down below. Follow me on Twitter. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help me out with my medical bills to try to overcome my disability, consider donating to my Patreon. If you don't like doing Patreon, perfectly understandable. Below that is my book that I wrote. The first one is free. It is the prologue to the main story. It's gotten good reviews on it. Read it. If you like it, please leave a review because that actually helps me out a lot. And if you really like it, consider buying the book that comes place 1 month after that book does. This is an introduction book. The other is the main story. It's only $2.99. Buying my book actually helps me out a lot because the more people buy it, the higher it comes up on search results, and thus other people can find it. Anyways, that's going to do it for me today. This is Mad Cat signing off.